Okay, let's just jump right into this. Today, we're diving into a highly analytical breakdown of the rigid criteria, the valuation methodologies, and the strategic protocols you absolutely have to know to recover from property damage and digital theft. As expert reports consistently point out, navigating the aftermath of a disaster isn't just about the physical cleanup, right? It's deeply tied to strictly regulated financial and operational procedures. So we're going to strip away all the generic advice and focus purely on the core mechanisms, the implicit assumptions, and the actionable insights that dictate how losses are formally recognized. Setting these stakes is critical right out of the gate, because in the wake of a disaster, emotional decisions almost always lead to financial ruin, whereas analytical precision, that guarantees your maximum legal recovery. So here's our analytical blueprint for this explainer. We'll be covering 1. Defining qualifying property loss. 2. Mechanisms of valuation. 3. Reimbursement and timing strategies. 4. Information theft mitigation. And finally, 5. The burden of documentation. Let's get right to it. Starting off with Section 1, defining qualifying property loss, the strict parameters. We have to start with the foundation. We need to precisely define what actually constitutes a qualifying loss under these strict regulatory frameworks. Because if you fail to meet these initial parameters, the entire recovery framework just instantly collapses. The crucial point here is that normal wear and tear never, ever qualifies. The event must strictly meet 3 non-negotiable criteria. It has to be sudden, unexpected, and unusual. There's this implicit assumption property owners make that any physical damage equals a recognized financial loss. But expert guidelines require an event to be sudden, meaning rapid, not progressive. So a slow termite infestation or a roof that's been leaking for 5 years, yeah, that doesn't qualify. Why? Because the system intentionally separates standard homeowner maintenance from true catastrophic anomalies. It must be an unforeseen shock to the property, like an extreme localized weather event. Now, this brilliantly illustrates the assumption that all losses are created equal. Spoiler alert, they're not. Standard losses face much higher reporting hurdles. If an isolated storm hits just your house and it isn't officially declared a broader disaster, recovering that value on paper requires offsetting it against existing casualty gains. What does that mathematical barrier actually look like in practice? Well, if you have personal casualty gains, say an insurance payout on another property that exceeds its original cost basis, you have to mathematically subtract this new isolated loss from those gains first. It severely limits your immediate relief. However, once an official centralized disaster declaration is made for a geographic region, entirely new regulatory avenues open up. Notice the cascading tiers of classification here: federal casualty loss, standard disaster loss, and qualified disaster loss. The exact classification of your loss strictly dictates the regulatory rules you have to follow. It's a direct cause and effect relationship. The severity and the official recognition of the event determine the specific administrative relief you get, things like extended filing deadlines, and the explicit mathematical formulas you are legally permitted to use to calculate your financial damage. Moving right along to Section 2, Mechanisms of Valuation, quantifying the damage. This is where precision is absolutely non-negotiable. Listen, you cannot simply assume that the cost of your repairs equals the value of your loss. It is strictly governed by this lesser of formula. Honestly, this is perhaps the most misunderstood mechanism in property recovery. Let me give you an example. If your cost basis, what you originally paid for the property, is $100,000, but the fair market value climbed to $300,000 right before fire wiped it out, your recognized loss is firmly capped at $100,000. It literally does not matter how high the market spiked. The framework intentionally prevents property owners from claiming inflated losses based purely on unrealized market gains. So how do you prove that value? These safe harbor methodologies offer standardized expert-level pathways to determine the decrease in fair market value for residential properties without requiring a full, highly expensive formal appraisal. What you're looking at is essentially a strategic toolkit. For losses under $5,000, the de minimis method allows a good faith written estimate, totally stripping away bureaucratic delays. Alternatively, the insurance method lets you rely entirely on the estimated loss reports generated by your insurer, streamlining the whole process. But notice the strict parameters for the estimated repair cost. You must have 2 independent estimates. It actively removes subjectivity from the equation. Now, for personal belongings, you have to apply these specific depreciation mechanisms, calculating exact percentages based on the lifespan of the item. You can't clean the brand new store price for a 5-year-old laptop destroyed in a flood. The replacement cost method enforces a strict 10% annual depreciation curve. This strictly prevents betterment, which is basically the idea that you could profit from a disaster by replacing old, degrading items with brand new ones at full market price. It's a totally algorithmic approach to asset valuation that ensures strict regulatory compliance. Okay, on to Section 3. Reimbursement and timing strategies, optimizing relief. Let's explore the strategic optimizations regarding exactly when a loss can be reported relative to your expected reimbursements. Time is a variable you can actually leverage. So, when does a property loss officially occur within the reporting timeline? It sounds like a trick question, right? But it's a critical regulatory distinction. Because the year the disaster physically strikes is not always the year the loss is recognized on paper. Let's look closely at the cause and effect relationship between pending reimbursements and official loss realization. As this core principle highlights, if you are awaiting an insurance payout, the loss is not officially realized until you have absolute certainty about the unreimbursed remainder. Legal absolute certainty means you have exhausted all appeals and all claims. If a storm hits your house in December, but you're negotiating with your insurance provider until the following July, your loss does not mathematically exist in the year of the storm. The ambiguity of your potential recovery entirely freezes the recognition of the loss. And this beautifully maps out your strategic option. If you are in a declared disaster zone, you can actually accelerate financial relief by reporting the loss in the preceding year. This is a massive tactical advantage. How does this alter your cash flow? Well, by amending a past return, you can retroactively lower your taxable income for the previous year, triggering an immediate refund. Instead of waiting until the end of the current year to see any financial relief, this mechanism is designed to inject immediate liquidity right back into the hands of those rebuilding. After navigating a claim, you don't just get a check and move on. You must mathematically adjust your property's cost basis by following these precise sequential steps. Step 1, you deduct any insurance payouts and recognize loss amounts from the original property cost. Step 2, this establishes your new reduced adjusted cost basis. And finally, Step 3, you rebuild that baseline by adding in the hard capital spent on restorative construction that prolongs the property's life. The capital structure of your property has fundamentally and mathematically changed. All right, let's pivot to Section 4, Information Theft Mitigation, Digital Disasters. Because physical property is no longer the only asset subject to sudden, unexpected loss. Digital breaches require immediate operational containment. Let's bust a major assumption right now. You must never, ever shut down infected hardware during a breach. Simply isolate the network, but leave the power on for the investigators. Yanking the power cord destroys the volatile memory, or RAM, which is exactly where elite forensic investigators look for the digital footprints of the attackers. Disconnect the internet to stop the bleeding, for sure, but keep the machine alive so the evidence survives. Then, execute the Written Information Security Plan, or WISP. Functionally, in those first critical minutes, a WISP provides a pre-authorized checklist of exactly who to call and what servers to isolate, entirely removing panic-driven decision-making. Once the immediate digital fire is out, these post-breach monitoring protocols are absolutely vital to stop malicious actors from redirecting your funds. You know, cyber thieves are incredibly patient. They might steal your identification numbers today, but wait months to alter routing numbers on legitimate financial portals to silently redirect your incoming payments. Implementing a 6-digit identity protection PIN creates a hard mathematical lock that totally nullifies the utility of the stolen data. And crucially, utilize centralized government identity theft reporting portals to formally register the breach and establish your legal timeline. Finally, Section 5, the burden of documentation, the ultimate failsafe. Let's look at the strict evidentiary standards required to prove everything we've just discussed. Because without this, the mechanisms we've covered are entirely useless. Your ability to recover anything hinges entirely on actionable, proactive proof mechanisms, like literally recording a time-stamped video walkthrough of your property before a forecasted storm hits. Expert reports consistently indicate that the more accurately your loss is estimated and proven, the more seamlessly you can access official recovery funds. Think back to Section 2. Without baseline evidence of what the property looked like before the sudden, unexpected event, proving that precise decrease in fair market value or establishing your original cost basis becomes a highly contested uphill battle. These frameworks exist to help you recover, but they're cold, calculating mechanisms. They require precise inputs, data, evidence, and strict adherence to timelines to generate the outputs of relief. So I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Ask yourself, are your current documentation, hygiene, and digital preparedness protocols robust enough to withstand strict regulatory scrutiny? Because when a physical or digital disaster strikes, the burden of proof rests entirely on you.